Welcome to the Thinking Man's Templar, the place where we say one red pill life outweighs a billion blue pill lives, and where the soldiers can come in from the war, remove their armor, drop their swords, and have conversations with like-minded men. And indeed, gentlemen, once again I'm at your service, offering a little bit of truth in a world full of lies and madness. I thank all of you guys who watched the live stream last night on YouTube and who've watched the recent video that I've dropped. And I wanted to talk about a subject that I feel is in dire need for all of us who are living in this war. And the title of this video is Calcifying the Heart and Taming the Flesh. And when I speak on these topics, we're going to talk about both, but separately we're going to start with the calcification of the male heart. All of our lives, we've been taught about our emotions and how men lack emotions thereof, and women are the emotional beings, and we're just these calculated robotic entities with no feelings, no imprint on the world as far as our inner selves feeling what the world is dishing out to us as men, which is a lie. All of us men have emotions. We have depression, we have joy, we have sadness, anxieties. And when I talk about the calcification of one's heart, I mean through trial, by fire, a man's heart changes. His heart changes in different times. There's a lot of disappointment that a man deals with when he's developing from a boy. Some of us grew up without fathers. That was a very vital blow to your heart and its development. It almost hindered your male emotional growth. And at first time you were talked down to or called out of your name by whomever, a bully, a friend, a girl, your mother, cousin. And you develop this hardness, especially some of you who grew up in a hard neighborhood, in the ghettos, in poverty, on welfare, in the struggle. You grew up faster than you needed to. Some of us didn't really get a lot of time to be a child. By the time you were a teenager, you were already taking on the responsibilities of men. Me, for example, I was already out looking for a job at 14. Before I was even legally able to work, I was still balancing school and sports. But I was under the impression that I needed to kick in. So I was out desperately looking for a job, almost as if I was alone as a grown man and trying to get a job to pay my rent. I didn't have these responsibilities, but they were put on me very early, and I always learned from that as knowing I had to work to make what I needed to make. And at that point, my childhood started to that point, my childhood was pretty much over. The games and the playfulness about me changed. You go into a place and have a boss telling you what to do, and you start learning these little tricks of responsibility. And you think about the kids on the other side of the track whose parents got 2 jobs and their parents are well off, and they don't have to do that. They get to focus on school. They get to focus on sports. They get to worry about their colleges and their plans afterwards. Some of them already had jobs lined up and things like that, while you were out being a part of the cogs in the machine and the infinite struggle that some of us never find an escape from. And then you get older and you start to encounter women. You start to date and you start to pursue. And you're almost like rosy-eyed. You don't really know what the darkness of it really is. When we're young, become sexually active when you're a young boy, a teenager, don't really know the power and the influence that a sexual relationship can have on you as a young man. It can literally change your life's trajectory. Just one mistake. I had friends who had children in high school, 8th grade, 11th grade, and it changed the trajectory of their lives. They didn't have the same freedoms. So you grow up and you start to deal with these women in the hoods and the ghettos. And we didn't know that we were the prey. We didn't know how lost we truly were. A lot of us weren't really connected to the Most High in any way, and we were so deep into that lustful ideology that we were chasing women and trying to be sexual. And then something happened as you get older. You start to really fall in love with these women. You start to fall in love with a worldly pursuit or whatever it may be. That first time getting fired from a job that you really liked or really needed, or getting let down from an opportunity that you really wanted, or denied something that you really were chasing. Losing a car, losing a home, losing an apartment, losing a friend. If you grow up in certain ghettos, your friends might get killed. Family members dying because they were selling drugs. Young teenage cousins of mine and uncles dying, going to jail. Funeral after funeral. A process begins on the human heart. The male heart. It begins to calcify. It begins to become hard. It starts lacking the emotional input that most people think men lack. It's not that we lack emotion. It's that we've learned over time that we need to calcify our hearts. We need to protect our heart, guard our hearts. Because men love deeply. Men are very passionate about the things they care about, the people they care about, male and female. You deal with betrayal, women cheating on you, leaving you, disrespect. And then you get that first true heartbreak. A lot of men may not really know how deep it was, but that first true heartbreak. And I want you men in the comments to tell me about that first true heartbreak. It doesn't have to be a long explanation, but how old were you? What was the outcome? What happened? Just a little detail, because we're all in the same fight. You had that first real heartbreak, the one that made you feel like you were dying. Because before that, everything was pixie tales, pixie dust, and fairy godmothers, and women are beautiful and innocent and sugar and spice, right? And then you get that first time when a girl cheats on you. And how cold the reality of it is when you offer your emotions. That heart begins to calcify even deeper. Now during this heartbreak, you're on the verge of physical and emotional death. Feels like you feel like you're literally dying. And what that process is, that feeling that you're going through, is the calcification of your heart. It has to die and be remolded through fire. Same way you would mold a sword in flame and steel, and mold it from a bent up piece of steel into a beautiful piece of art capable of deadly force if in the right hands. The calcification, the changing, the alchemy of the heart, the chemistry of the heart changes from that point on. And that's when you truly became a man. You understood your emotions. You understood your feelings. You understood how to protect them. You went into the world with a new eyes. And when you dealt with women, you had a different approach. Some of you might have been more careless, colder. You might have dealt with women and discarded them like trash after you got what you wanted. After your heart was calcified, see. You go back into the world and now you have the approach that you need with most harlots. It's indifference. It's crazy how when you calcify your heart and you no longer care is when you really start to attract women, and then they become your victims somewhat. You stop caring about how they feel about you, their opinions. Their emotional games don't work on you, but for some reason it seems to draw them even closer to you. They become more addicted to your presence because you are indifferent to hers. That calcification probably saved your life, saved you from a lot of heartache, a lot of manipulation, because you were easy, you were quick, you were efficient. When a woman didn't do what you wanted, you were able to walk away unscathed, emotions intact, because you remember those times when you were curled up in a ball in the dark heart, thinking you were going to die from heartbreak. And now, you got a heart of diamond, calcified and strong, plated in steel, antimentium almost, impenetrable, unbreakable. You are a man on fire. Everything about you is different. The way you approach business, people, you walk more sternly. This is a trial by fire that every man needs to go through. That calcification is what saves him. It's needed. Some of you guys, unfortunately, may have had children with the woman that did this to you, but saved you at the same time. Wives, all type of situations, girlfriends, years and years and years and years and years. Something awful happens, a betrayal. And then later on, after your heart is calcified, you find yourself able to walk away into her behest. She thinks you never cared. She thinks you're evil or wicked or foul. But it's just the process. There's no love lost. It's just your heart has been changed over time. You've lived. You've been through too many wars, too many letdowns, too many disappointments and betrayals to be fully open with your emotional output. And sometimes with women, it tends to bother them because they feel as if it's not a match. They're giving more emotion than you're giving, but they don't understand that for your survival, your literal survival, you have to be an emotionally in control being in a world like this. You don't have an option to play with your emotions. You don't have an option to put your heart on your sleeve, so to speak. All of us used to be that bright-eyed green guy walking around with his heart on his sleeve. And what did that get you? Embarrassment, betrayal, pain, tears. Something that most men don't ever want to feel again. That's why a lot of men choose to walk alone, because they don't want to risk feeling that again. That death of the heart, that calcification process is so painful. Though it's needed, every man needs to go through that. Every man is required to go through that. And for those who go through that process and don't fully accept the change, they're only doomed to repeat the same mistakes. It's required of you to go through that. And it also entails what I'm going to talk about now, the taming of the flesh. The calcification of the heart and the taming of the flesh are two things that you as a man need to master and embrace that journey, that war with your own self. Once the heart is calcified and the mind follows and the spirit follows, you become stronger. But you also have your flesh fighting against that process, still desiring the sweet nothings, the honey glazed lips, the soft, supple bodies, and lovely scents of the opposite sex. You're almost a slave to your flesh. See, Christ the Messiah, he had to kill his flesh on the cross to kill the sin that came with it. And you as a man, metaphorically, you have to do the same thing to your flesh. You have to crucify it. Now, a lot of us, some of you men are active, or you work out, or you keep yourself on a tight regimen, but understand the world and temptation of the flesh is not just sex. It's food, it's music, it's indulgence. The theme of the world now is do as thou wilt, and full indulgence in all things with no moderation and no form of fashion. If it's sex, it has to be extreme. Food, extreme. Violence, extreme. There's nothing extreme being spoken about being in extreme control. When I mean taming your flesh, things like fasting, intermittent fasting, conquering your gut, that constant craving for food, and start realizing that food is actually fuel. And I remember Joe Rogan said something, food doesn't taste good enough for me to destroy my body. There's no food that tastes good enough to sacrifice my health. And once you start thinking like that, you start understanding, like, I'm down to probably 1 meal a day for the most part, protein shakes, vitamins, workout pretty much as of late in the last couple of months, almost every day. Maybe I'll take a day off, but I went yesterday, I went today, and it might go tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm kind of in the process of taming my flesh, being the master of my body, punishing my flesh in the gym, making my body do things it doesn't want to do. When I had a different mentality, I was cool just sitting home on the couch and playing video games all day. Now it's kind of hard for me to even turn on a video game, because even if I haven't been to the gym, I feel the need to go. I feel like there's still more to do. I come from the gym, I work out for about an hour and some change, maybe even longer, given with the cardio. I come home, I eat something healthy, try to probably get a steak or eat some protein. You know what I mean? 1 meal is knocked out by 3 o'clock. And then my body goes into this, I go into the steam room downstairs, right? And I'll sit in there until I'm drenched in sweat, and literally till I can't take it anymore. You know, your body doesn't want to be in that situation. It doesn't want to be in a hot, steaming room, sweating. But I'm punishing my flesh. I'm taming it. I'm crucifying it. I'm lifting the weights because I know my body doesn't want to do it. It wants to sit on the couch and watch TV and eat cookies and ice cream. But now my body opens the refrigerator. It doesn't have any ice cream. There is no crackers or cookies. It's only fruits and vegetables, water, vitamins, meat. That's it. It doesn't have all of the creature comforts that it got so used to, because I'm conquering my flesh. I'm training it to be without things and to do things that are uncomfortable. So I go work out till I'm literally out of gas, and I don't want to injure myself because I'm 43. So I want to work out to the point where I feel the burn, I feel the pump. I hit my body, I hit my key body parts. I'm sweating, I'm feeling good. My body's feeling like it's done what it does. I go home, I go to my building, I turn on the steam room, and I literally sit in there until it gets hot. It might take about 10 minutes. By the time I'm done, maybe 10 more minutes in, 15 minutes, I'm drenched in sweat. I'll come home, and as every man does, you look at yourself in the mirror, and the first thing I say is, you got more work to do. You're not done. You got a long way to go, brother. So I don't get content. I'm telling myself that I'm not done. The battle's still going. The fight for my flesh won't stop. It's a lifelong battle. Taming your flesh, changing how you use your idle time, how easy it is to go on your phone and watch porn. And I'm disgusted by the times that I've done it, and now I'm trying to be on my retention. And I've noticed changes. I get more into my word, listening to the Bible, contemplating, praying. And then these things start to change how you look at stuff like that. And even if you need a little help, I would put like a porn blocker on my phone with a crazy hard code. So if I did go to something inappropriate, my phone would just not let me. And then after that, it's like, it's gone. But that's the battle that men have to have. The world is so sexualized. Everything hypersexualized. There's nowhere to go. You watch a movie, you watch a TV show, before you know it, sex scene, this, that, da-da-da-da-da. You go online, some girl butt naked shaking her boobs, and blah, 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 blah. You have to tame your flesh, brothers. You have to fight it. You have to beat it down. You have to crucify it. Same way Christ crucified his, so that all sin could be dealt with, and the remission of sin could be possible for us. And that's almost like what you need to do. And the Bible says, flee from sin, run. I don't know if it was Joseph or it was somebody's wife that was trying to sleep with him, and he ran naked, literally from that sin of adultery. And I'm not a preacher by any aspect of the word. You know what I mean? I read the Bible, but I mostly listen to it. So that's easier for me to absorb it. As a music listener my whole life, I can listen to the Bible all day, just have it on the speakers playing while I'm just meditating on it. So a lot of verses and things by number and verse, I don't know, but a lot of the actual words being said, I know by listening to it multiple times, listening to the Bible multiple times. And even when I'm in the gym today, I was doing my warm down after I worked out, got on the treadmill just to kind of warm down the body and just walk briskly. And I was listening to the book of Timothy, and I was talking about how people will be lovers of themselves and falling into reprobate minds and sinful ways. And it's the thing I was thinking about while I was walking and listening to that on the way home. And it's interesting when you think of these things and how it affects you as a man. It is a war, man. It is a battle. But it is a good feeling when you feel like you're starting to get a little bit of control over your body. When you feel like your body is your slave, not the other way around. You're becoming the master of your flesh. Your body is your slave. Your body, your bones, your muscles, they're your slave. To be molded, to be sculpted, to do what you wish. They don't control you. It doesn't control you. You control it. And once you get to that point where you have a routine of taming your flesh and having a calcified heart, you start to realize that life gets a lot easier. Temptation gets easier to walk away from because your body doesn't have that control over it, because you've been punishing it for the last 6 months, a year, making it do what you want it to do. And it also transfers into your mind and your thinking. Like, I'm feeling more inspired. My mind is working better, more clear. You understand? You put in vitamins and you're taking things that you need to supplement your strength, and you're building in your body. And you I feel myself, I'm losing the weight. It's slimming down. My face is getting thinner. My skin is getting clearer. My body's getting harder. And it's a good feeling because I spent so much time being a loaf, being uninspired, my spirit being kind of taken from me, not feeling the need to really be active. And now it's coming back to me, and I have that fire to break my body. It can't exist like this no more. I didn't like the man I saw in the mirror, and that man can't exist any longer. I have to break him. I have to shake him. I have to punish my body for all the times that it had control. Now I have control, so my body's gonna suffer. You understand? Your flesh needs to suffer. Fasting, it needs to suffer. 3 meals a day, why? Why do you need 3 meals a day? I understand you fast. What I do, I'll have a protein shake in the day. Then I'll eat something around 4. And if I do get a little hungry later, maybe some peanuts or something, or maybe another protein shake. But at that point, at a certain point, I'm not giving my body anything. Because them late night hours, you want some cookies, you want some ice cream. And usually you can fight that by going to bed earlier. That's what I'm starting to do now. I'm starting to cut back the hours I stay up. You know what I mean? Usually stay up to 3, 4 in the morning for no reason. Now I'm cutting it back to around 11, 12. And even further, I'm going to start cutting it back to 10 and 9. And I'm just going to make my body do all the things it doesn't want to do. Until it's under my control. Until I have it under complete submission. You know what I mean? I see guys who are in shape, guys who are in the gym, guys who have the right mentality. And those are the guys I seek to be like. Those men that seem to have a control over their flesh, because it reflects in your life. If you can conquer your body, it makes it a lot easier to conquer other things, right? Your body's the hardest. Conquering your body is the hardest challenge you can take on. But once you've done it, everything else starts to make sense. I see a lot of the men that I see that are really successful, they have a great physique. They have a great body. They've tamed their flesh. They conquered their body and molded it and sculpted it to how they want it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like upkeep of your temple, right? You want to garnish it with gold and decorations and make it beautiful. You don't want it to be a beat down shack, you know, a dilapidated home. You want it to be beautiful, like the mansions that God prepared for us in heaven. Something amazing. You know, your body is a machine, right? It's a machine. It's a fleshly machine. So you have to upkeep, you have to maintain it. So all of these things are proper and exact, right and exact, like a lot of the 5%ers would say. It's right and exact. It feels right. You feel better. Your mind's clearer. It all works out. You understand? My body's not doing what it wants to do, not doing anything. Why? When I can record this video right now. You understand what I'm saying? It wants to turn on the video game, but instead I say, no, I'm gonna record a video. Last night I said, no, I'm gonna do a live for 4 hours. It's a beautiful feeling when you know you're on the path to becoming the man you want to be. Because I wasn't the man I wanted to be for so long. You know what I mean? Probably a good 6 months. I was in like a rut mentally. And you saw like the output of videos went down. I didn't have that inspiration. It's because I didn't have control. I had the understanding, but it was like the forces, the enemy was fighting against me. I was under a trial, guys. I was under a spiritual trial. I was being attacked, mainly. Spirit of lust, gluttony, sloth. Those are real demons. Those are real demons, man. There's demons that represent these things. So when they get a hold of you, they'll find the things you like. Oh, he likes to hang out. Okay, then they'll attack you in that area. And you have to recognize that and break it, be delivered from it, so that you can get back to the man you want to be. You know what I mean? Time is short, fellas. So I just want to remind you of these two processes that you need to focus on. The calcification of your heart and the taming of your flesh. These two things, at my age at 43, from what I've learned through my trials and tribulations of my life, these two things are the keys to your freedom. They are the keys to your peace. They are the keys to you obtaining the things you want in this life, because you have a machine that is tamed and doing your bidding. And that's the key. The reason why a lot of men who are successful have a certain physique, a certain mentality, is because they've trained their heart, they calcified their heart, and their body does their bidding. They put their body in submission. So now that their body is working the way they want, it does what they want to do mentally. It follows their script, not the other way around. If you listen to your body, you'll be like them people on Sick My 800-pound life. You know what I mean? Those people that get so big that they can't even walk, and they gotta be, they're just stuck in a room for the rest of their life. Seriously, people that are like addicted to drinking and all types of things like that. There's all these things that can get you addicted when your body is taking control. Your flesh is ruling you. That's where addiction comes from. You understand? That's why people get addicted to drinking. And once I stopped drinking, I started realizing that my need for certain activities and places it started to dissipate. You don't need it. It's just something there. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you can't have a drink with your boys and chop it up over a whiskey and talk. I'm not talking about that, but the alcoholism, the daily drinking, the buying of a bottle every day. And a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. A lot of y'all can attest to that. Going to the liquor store in the daytime just to get a bottle like it's nourishment. Just so you can be in the house getting drunk for no reason. I grew up in a family of alcoholics and drinkers. I had my first beer when I was like 11. You know what I mean? I grew up around drug use, drug selling, you know what I mean? Alcoholism, all the vices. I come from a family of very successful drug dealers in Queens, South Side. You know what I mean? These dudes is pulling up in Porsches and dirt bikes and Benzes and jewelry and money. That's all I saw my whole life. The lust for the dollar, the lust for money. These dudes literally gave their lives, some of them, and their freedom for money. Probably even took lives too. Lust for the worldly things. I watched my whole family go from thriving to gone, destroyed. Between the late 80s and the early 90s, it was over. Half my cousins and uncles were dead. The other half were in jail. Some of them are just getting their lives back together now. Some of them never did. I had an uncle who died in jail, died in prison from drugs. So his body was so in control. His flesh was so in control of that addiction to crack and coke that he literally overdosed in jail, where you're not even supposed to be doing that, right? But everybody knows it's easier to get drugs in jail than anywhere, right? So he literally died from an overdose in prison. And his boots, I never forget, in my grandmother's garage, his old work boots was hanging in her garage. The boots of a dead man who died in jail, in prison, from an overdose. I had another uncle overdose right in front of me. I heard that story. Running from the police, selling coke, swallowed the 8-ball, came home and broke in his stomach, died and had a seizure out right in front of me. And that right there was the beginning of my calcification process. I'm talking I was 8-9 years old. Once you see death up close like that, to someone you looked up to and loved, I spent the whole day with him before that happened. We were riding around in the city in Queens. He was making his little runs. It was like the best day ever. And then to watch him die like that right in front of me at night, my mom and my grandmother and his girlfriend hysterically losing their minds, the ambulance picking him up, and he's seizured. Literally, I've never seen a seizure before. I never seen someone have a seizure. It's so unnatural what the body does. It was horrifying. Then have everybody push me back in my room. Get out of here, you know? Then I wake up the next day, everybody's gone, nobody's home. I go outside and I'm shooting basketball. And I come home and I see my grandmother and my mom and everybody pull up in the driveway in tears. And at that point I knew that was it. It was so bad when he was being buried, I didn't even want to go to the funeral, you know, because I loved him so much. I looked up to him. He's only 24, but he was like my father figure. He's the coolest guy I ever met in my life. He's always dressed nice. He had everything he wanted. He used to let me help him work on his BMW and hand him his tools and, you know, ride me around on his dirt bike and stuff like that. He's the coolest guy I ever knew. So I didn't want to go to that funeral. But my friend's mother was going to the funeral. And she drove by and saw me playing basketball in the yard. And she said, "Nah, you're going." I went to that funeral in basketball clothes. Because my mom said you don't have to go. But I was in basketball clothes when I went to my uncle's funeral. And saw him laying there bluish. That color of death on the flesh. Black skin. When there's no life, you know. Face all swollen and it's crazy. You know. I didn't go to the actual funeral, but the wake was enough. The calcification process had begun early for me. And a lot of you guys can attest to that. A lot of you men went to the military. And you were a young boy. And you went to the military and saw death up close, war up close. And your heart began the calcification process then. It's something you have to go through. It's something that's needed. It's something we all need to do at some point. You have to fight your flesh to the end, to the bitter end. You understand? But again, I just wanted to let you guys know this is something that was on my mind that I felt inclined to talk about. And I hope this video is useful. Like I said, the output is gonna kick up. I got my mojo back. Feeling good, feeling great, feeling blessed. And I hope you men are feeling the same. Once again, it's the Thinking Man's Templar, the place where we say one red pill life far outweighs a billion blue pill lives, and with the soldiers can come in from the war, remove their armor, drop their swords, and then have conversations with like-minded men. And indeed, gentlemen, once again, I'm at your service, dispelling the lies and offering a little bit of truth in a world full of madness. And as always, keep the Most High close. Keep a repentant heart. Repentant heart. Walk the righteous path, the narrow path, and most importantly, always cover your six. See you on the next one. Peace.